I plan on going to the U.S. House of Representatives in January. But when I get there, I need allies. That's why your vote this November is so important. I need you to vote in my conservative allies across the city, across the county, across the state. I need you to vote for John Culberson. I need you to leave. I need you to leave here, because I know you'll vote. If you're in here, you're voting. I need you to leave here and pass on our message to those who may not be listening, who may not want to listen. I need you to convince them. People vote for all sorts of different reasons. Sometimes it's single issues, sometimes it's about personality or charisma. I vote based on governing principles. I think a lot of you do. Where are our governing principles? I'm always looking for ways to explain that to people, because when I ask you to go and talk to people and convince them, you need some simple ways to talk to them about it. I think we're for sustainable policies versus short-term fixation. I think we're the do-good party, not the feel-good party. I think we trust in the people to self-govern versus trust in a small group of Washington experts to govern for us. We believe in local problem solving versus centralized power in a federal bureaucracy. We believe in protection of our laws and our border versus an all-out assault on our sovereignty. We believe that in the recognition that we are a melting pot unified under one flag in three colors, the red, white, and blue, and one set of ideals, not a multicultural salad bowl of different identities. We believe in liberty and opportunity versus power hierarchies and redistribution. We believe in results versus resistance. We've been hearing that a lot lately, right? Resistance. Well, resistance to what? To lower taxes in a regulatory environment that has given us the best economy in decades? Resistance to common sense desire to secure an open border? Resistance to nominating qualified constitutionalists to the Supreme Court? Resistance to more choice in healthcare and an end to burdensome regulations on doctors? Maybe resistance to real reforms to our entitlement programs that get our spending back on track and save programs like Social Security and Medicare, which would go bankrupt otherwise? Resistance to strong national security, helping our veterans, rebuilding our military? What exactly are they resisting? Those seem like pretty good things to me. But instead they label us as deplorables. Or Joe Biden came up with a new one recently, the dregs of society. Really? On the right, we are a movement with real ideas and a coherent governing philosophy based on sustainability and self-governance. So we take our role in this world seriously. We look out for our military and our allies like Israel because we have the wisdom to understand what is good and decent in this world and our role in protecting it. Because if America doesn't stand up for it, doesn't stand up for what is decent and the proven values of Western liberal democracy, then no one will. Conservatives are the champions of sustainability, not radical change for the sake of change itself. It's a word we should use a little more often, sustainability, because that's what responsible government is. Opening our borders to the world may make us feel good in the short term, but it's not sustainable. Over 400,000 apprehensions on the border just last year is not sustainable, either for law enforcement, our courts, our civic institutions, or our cultural fabric. Taxing the rich may make Democrats feel good, but it does nothing to help the poor. A strong economy, a free market economy, and reducing burdensome occupational licensing does. Handing out more health care coverage may feel good, but it does nothing to improve access when record numbers of doctors refuse to work in an overburdened system any longer. Expanding the roles of Medicaid may make us feel good because we tally more numbers on the list of people covered, but it's not sustainable, it never will be. Medicare for all may appear deceptively simple, but the cost will never be sustainable, and the notion of simplification is a false one. The reality is that instead of a third-party insurer controlling your health care, admittedly not ideal, it will just be a government bureaucrat instead, even more undesirable. The Democrats favor short-term, irresponsible policies that are going to bankrupt the millennial generation, my generation. At a time when healthcare costs and entitlement spending are skyrocketing, we need responsible representatives who will stand up and rein in spending. Politicians who actually tell the truth about our fiscal irresponsibility and do something about it. I actually believe that a new generation of conservatives is ready to make the hard decisions. Decisions that will tackle tough problems like entitlement reform and pursue these problems through the lens of personal responsibility, sustainability, and long-term planning. I think this new generation will begin again to understand that a society is not sustainable without a sense of personal responsibility, not sustainable without a sense of trust in local self-governance, and not sustainable without freedom and individual liberty. We know the importance of constitutional government and pushing the power of government down to the local level. Where do you want your problem solved? By unelected bureaucrats or local representatives that you can actually see and hear? If my opponent, if Congressman Culberson's opponent, if all of your opponents actually cared about Texans, they wouldn't be supporting an ideology that seeks only to gain more power, more rules and regulations, and centralize it in Washington. Of course, that's not how they put it, is it? They just want more power, but to do good things. Well, what kind of good things? Who decides? Whatever they say it is, that's what. And if you disagree with them, they'll shut down your speech. They will attack your intent. They will call it malevolent. As conservatives, we think carefully about policy and the implications of using the power of government to make impulsive and far-reaching changes. We think carefully about how we use the most powerful federal government that has ever existed. We limit its power so that the real power to solve problems, the real power to create solutions remains with each and every American. I'm going to quote Joe Biden again. He said, "For too long in this society, we have celebrated unrestrained individualism over common community." I think Karl Marx said something pretty similar to that. So yeah, Joe, that is right. We do celebrate the power of the individual because we figured out a really long time ago that in order for a diverse people to live together in a complex society, we must empower the individual, not divide people into tribal groups. Personal responsibility must be rewarded, not punished. Civic institutions like the church should be empowered, not swept away in favor of a more powerful federal government. Our country is a miracle of freedom and prosperity precisely because of these principles, where individuals can live and work in peace without fear of large government telling us how to work, how to spend our money, how to run our businesses, or worse, what we can think or say. The easiest thing in the world is to be captivated by this idea of resistance. Like a lot of teenagers know, there's an innate sense when you're growing up that things are just wrong. They just feel wrong. They need to be changed. A sense that everything you were taught by your parents is bad and outdated. We've all been there. The language of revolution is captivating and it just feels right. But it's not right. Because America is actually a compilation of the best ideas throughout history. It is the ultimate conservative experiment in the sense that conservatives show a natural gratitude and appreciation of the past trials and tribulations. Jerusalem taught us about a purposeful moral existence under God. Athens brought us philosophical and political self-awareness, brought us the gift of reason. Rome taught us the importance of laws and respect for founding virtues. London taught us that all men are subject to law, even kings, and that balance of power and checks and balances are paramount to liberty. The lessons of Jerusalem and Rome and Athens and London during the Enlightenment were encapsulated in Philadelphia by the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, where mankind finally understood that our unalienable rights existed and that the government's purpose was simply to protect them, not change them. We're patriots. We believe that the ideals that our country was founded on are the right ones. That doesn't make us perfect. We don't always live up to those ideals, and we have work to do. The left does not see America as good, as founded upon something good. According to them, when we aren't perfect, when we don't live up to those ideals, the only course of action is to undermine the very values and ideals that America was built on. Tear up our history and instead look to secular socialism as the answer. Well, that's not America and that's not Texas. Our values are simple. We believe in a pluribus unum, that we are united under one flag, and our mission should be to protect that flag and the ideals it represents. We believe in liberty and the freedom to live our lives and pursue our happiness. And we believe in the statement, "In God we trust," because we know where our virtue and our morality comes from, and we know that we cannot live in a free society without those moral foundations. We know that the U.S. Constitution was wholly inadequate for any other than a virtuous people. So when you leave here, and you talk to your neighbors, you tell them why we are so passionate about voting for Republicans this November, you tell them all those things. I have copies of this in case anyone's wondering. You tell them we are the party of responsible government, sustainable government, limited government, and the freedom to be anything you want in this country if you're willing to work hard and live with virtue. We are voting Republican because it's the right choice, and the future of our country is at stake. Our country is depending on you to deliver that message. Thank you.